All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the numbers behind the annual fisheries agreement between the Faroe Islands and Russia. This is a deal that trades fish for access, but as you'll see, it's also become a pretty major geopolitical test. We're going to break it all down based on an analysis by Shearder Scaly.
So, as the annual renewal of this deal gets closer, the big question is, what are the actual terms? What is being traded here? And what makes this year's decision in particular so complicated?
First up, let's just set the stage and look at the agreement itself. This isn't just a simple rubber stamp renewal. It's a very contentious decision that the Faroe Islands is facing.
And really, the entire debate boils down to these two questions. First, just on a pure value basis, should the deal be renewed at all? And second, should the agreement include specific Russian ships that have been blacklisted by Western allies for security reasons?
Okay, so to understand the trade, let's look at the first side of the ledger. What exactly do the Faroe Islands give to Russia under this deal? The headline number is this one right here. Russia gets permission to fish for approximately 142,000 tons in Faroese waters. This is the absolute core of what the Faroese are putting on the table. Now, how do we get to that big number? Well, it's made up of a couple of parts. You have direct quota swaps for species like blue whiting and mackerel, but then you have this other interesting part, permission for Russia to catch about 53,000 tons of its own international quota, just inside the much more convenient Faroese fishing zone. But it isn't just about the tonnage. The deal also licenses 28 specific Russian ships to operate there, and some of these are huge. We're talking about the 5,000-ton class. And here's the crucial detail. 3 of these ships are specifically noted as being under suspicion for having ties to the Russian military. All right, so now let's flip it around. We've seen what the Faroes give. What do their fishing vessels get in return for all that access? In exchange, the Faroe Islands gets the right to fish just under 13,500 tons in the Russian Barents Sea. Now, just pause and compare that for a second to the 142,000 tons Russia can fish. The difference in volume is, well, it's massive. And here's what that catch looks like. It's mostly cod, about 7,500 tons of it, along with 1,000 tons of haddock and a pretty good quota for shrimp as well. But you know, these numbers don't quite tell the full story. The source material adds some really important context here. That valuable cod quota, it's actually expected to shrink. And that shrimp quota often isn't even fully caught. So what this means is that the real value of the deal for the Faroes is probably even lower than it looks on paper. And that brings us to the final part of this, which is the issue that really transforms this from a standard fisheries negotiation into a major security policy challenge. So here's where it gets really tricky. The Faroe Islands' closest allies and partners, the EU, Norway, have put 2 specific Russian shipping companies on a blacklist because of their suspected connections to the Russian military. And Russia's response to this has been, well, an ultimatum. According to the source, Russia has made it pretty clear that if these specific ships are excluded from the deal, then all cooperation might just stop. The whole deal could be off.
So, this presents a really stark choice. On one side, they can allow the blacklisted ships. That secures the fisheries deal for another year. But it also means acting against the sanctions from their allies and potentially having semi-military vessels in their waters. On the other side, they can exclude the ships, align with Western security policy. But that means risking the termination of the entire agreement, just as Russia has threatened. It's a direct clash between economics and geopolitics. Like and subscribe to PAL's Fundamentals for more content like this. Sources linked below.